this is Catherine and Christopher Tipper, and we're the 401 couple. And who do we have here today with us?
Today we have with us Kevin Spaeth. I'm going to as he says that, I'm like, oh my God, am I saying his last name right? Because I was going to call Kevin a friend, okay? I mean, he's exceedingly friendly, so I'm going to call Kevin a friend.
It's like Conan O'Brien needs a friend.
I need
everybody.
a friend.
Everybody gets to define what friendship means to them.
Every third guest is going to be Kevin then. Now, Kevin is currently with Penchex as a regional territory director. We're going to find out exactly what that means. I think everybody comes up with fancy words for the exact same position, but we're going to find out. All right. Now then, Kevin started in the business in 1999, according to LinkedIn, which is the keeper of all knowledge, with a census, which is really funny because I don't think a census existed then, and I don't think he worked for a census in 1999. Now then, in between a census, there was 2 stops on your way to Empower. All right. Yes. You were at Empower for about 10 years. And I think that's where we first met. I don't think we met when you were at American Funds, did we? No. All right.
No, I don't think so either.
And then, so I've been talking to Kevin from both at Penchex and at Empower. All right. And we did not meet each other in person for the first time until August of 2024, when we were in the exterior oven referred to as Palm Springs.
Yeah.
Correct?
Don't go to Palm Springs in the summer.
Springs in the Jiminy Christmas. No. Okay. Now then, Kevin and I were both attending Sherry Fitz's Sway Live event. I'm going again in 2025. Catherine's going to be an attendee in 2025.
I'll be there in 2025.
I'll be there. Hey, I still got my Sway bracelets going on here. Okay. All right. There we go. Okay. Now then, Catherine and I have always enjoyed our conversations with Kevin. So we thought we'd ask him on the pod and see what we can talk about with what he does at Penchex. Now then, we have to do the most important part of our podcast, which is not a sound check. Okay. It's not a camera check. We have our own. Yes. So for those of you who are familiar with the YouTube channel or our regular YouTube video, it's only bourbon unless it's a special Italian guest. But on the podcast, because we have guests, the guest gets to pick the treat. And Kevin picked Pilsner. So whose Pils did you get? Because I went and got the first one, Pilsner Urquell.
Oh, the very first one.
Yeah.
So I actually got Wildness. It's an Alaskan cold beer, and it's actually it defies description. It's not a Pilsner. It's not a lager. It's not anything like that. It is its own beer, and I know that for a fact because I was hanging out with the CEO of Alaskan Brewing up in Anchorage a couple of months ago for the ESOP Association's Northwest event. Whoa. So I'm going to crack this open.
So I took you at your literal word as Pils, as I ignored the other lagers, okay? And we do have a client, Two Brothers Brewing is a client of ours, and I didn't get one of theirs because I couldn't find their Pils. But do you remember the story behind these glasses, dear? Or should we not talk about that right now?
You're not going
It's a good.
So I'm going to say, I'm going to jump into what I always remember first. So the one thing, Kevin, that I always thought was really cool is you talked about how fun the ESOP people can be. So This almost sounds like a nod to your ESOP friends.
Cheers.
Cheers. That you have an ESOP friend, CEO, who has great beer. So you have other ESOP good friends. Is that like a good crowd or?
So it's a really good crowd. So real quick about my LinkedIn profile, I guess that dropped the first 2 years off. I originally started in 97 at Merrill Lynch in their home office back when it was in Somerset.
Okay.
But there might be a, statute of limitations on that. Or Merrill Lynch might have went in and be like, we don't want anything to do with that guy.
Are the TRO expired?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, so, for the last 27 years, when I go to conferences after conferences, and it's all industry people, it's all people in finance or administration or anything like that. But the great thing about ESOP conferences that I really love is that it's it's not industry people, it's employee owners of different organizations, employee owners of Alaskan Brewing Company, employee owners of a hand specialist of a construction company. So you get to meet a lot more, a bigger slice of American life than you would attending other industry conferences, because it's not a DCIO or an actuary or a trustee or anything like that. It's the employee owners.
Yeah.
And what's great is that to a lot of these events, the company will send like 5 or 10 people, or it could be C-suite people, and it could also be, more blue collar people, or, got somebody working in the loading dock. But at the end of the day, they're all employee owners.
Right.
Interesting. Okay. I think
Those people have long-term vision, actually, because they're in an ESOP now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and they should. Usually with ESOP conferences, there's 2 tracks. There's your technical track, and then there's your cultural track, because it takes a while culturally for you to realize that you're an owner of the company, and that you have an ownership stake. And it's something that a lot of people don't realize until they really get into it. My baby cousin is the administrator of the ESOP for her construction company based down in Orange County, and she says that's all. Getting the buy-in is always a difficult thing.
Right.
Interesting. Very interesting. Well, thank you. All right. So what we'd like to do today is have a conversation about whatever comes out of Kevin's mouth. All right. We do have some starter ideas.
Okay.
Right? I really thought you would wear a pen check shirt. You show up so many times in your social media stuff wearing swag, and it doesn't look like you've got something on from them unless they bought a baseball team.
I've got my Western Pension
benefits counts. Okay.
Yeah, Western Pension, Portland. I'm a board member, and we all got baseball jerseys for our signature summer event, the Portland Pickles game.
Okay, which kind of leads me into the very first question that we have. Okay. Kevin, how are you able to be so creative at work? I know we're kind of starting in the middle here, but You look at your stuff on LinkedIn. That's the only way. If you're doing other social media stuff, I don't see that. I see a bunch of stuff you do on LinkedIn. And Catherine and I try to be a little unusual, but you're really there. And I mean that in the best possible way.
Well, everybody has to be very corporate most of the time when they're in a position like yours, and you're not corporate. So, have you just elbowed your way into that position, or is there something kind of unique about what you do?
So I've just found that, people do business with people that they know and people that they like. And I found it's a lot easier. Like I found that it turns out that I don't have a lot of clients that work with me, but I have a lot of friends that own TPAs.
Okay.
And or friends that work for third-party administrators or things like that. And it's a lot better to just be yourself and present as your true self, and people like that more. And Penchex just allows me to do that. Allows me to be who I am.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing, actually.
And were you able to do this? I mean, so was this completely pent up everywhere else you were at, and you just did this off in community theater, or how, you didn't suddenly become creative?
No, but I was suddenly just decided to just be my true authentic self on social media. Everybody that, if you knew me at Empower, you knew that I was kind of myself anyway, especially in person, maybe not email. That actually brings me back to a funny story. I remember when I left American Funds and went to work for the third-party administrator, National Retirement Services, now a future planning company. I met with one of the wholesalers for John Hancock, and he was like a really big deal. And 5 minutes into the conversation, he's like, "Hey, I know why you didn't, work out at American Funds." I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" He's like, "Well, you're unique, and you're kind of your own thinker. You do this, and you're not like corporate button down. I couldn't see you fitting with the culture over there." I'm like, "Wow!" I'm like, "No wonder he's a good salesman. He's figured me out, like talking to me for 5 minutes." I'm like, "That's crazy. I mean, he must be a really great judge of color." And then he says, he's like, and nobody he's like, yeah, because, you know, it takes a lot of individuality to wear a purple shirt. And I was wearing a button-down shirt, and I'm like, and I'm colorblind, and I can't see the color purple. And I'm like, no, I'm not wearing a purple shirt. He's like, dude, that shirt's purple. I'm like, no, this is a blue shirt. He's like, that is a purple shirt. I'm like, no. And he's like, wait, he's like, when you bought that shirt, did it say purple, or did it say blue, or was it some kind of made up J. Crew color? I'm like, it was like sea foam or crustacean-ish or something like that. He's like, yeah, man, that shirt's purple.
You need Garanimals for adults, like I do.
I
Yeah.
think that's like a beautiful accent.
But I actually love it.
way to,
Yes.
You know.
That was single Kevin.
Okay.
Married Kevin doesn't do his own clothes shopping.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So, going into a little bit more of history. So, two-part question.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What twist of fate led you to Orissa Land, and why are you still here?
Okay. So, my degree is in anthropology, and I was
What else?
going to be an archaeologist, and that was I was going to be a full-time archaeologist. I've been on a couple of archaeological digs. I was the field photographer, and I developed all the pictures for a dig that Seton Hall University had done in Jordan. I was very good in the dark room. This is back in the 90s, pre-digital photography. But there was a change in government in the state of New Jersey, and there was a budget deficit.
Yes.
And they had to cut a bunch of social programs. So all the people that were in the social programs in the state of New Jersey, including a lot of the archaeologists, were all of a sudden out of work. So over the summer, I went back to work at the racetrack on the Jersey Shore that I worked at. And then when the track season ended, I went back to work at the record store, and I'm like, this is just not sustainable. And my dad's reading the paper, and he's like, and goes to show how long ago it is. And he's like, hey, look, Merrill Lynch is hiring. And I'm like, I don't know what a 401k is. He's like, don't worry, they'll train you. And sure enough, they didn't, but they gave me good work experience. Like, this was like the 90s. This was like typical it was right when Office Space came out. It was so Office Space. 401ks were exploding in Daily Val. And they were hiring liberal arts majors like 1 or 2 years out of college. We used to play a game, what's your liberal arts major?
Uh-huh.
And at one time, there was so much explosive growth, they cleared out a supply closet, and put like 10 of us in there and forgot about us for 3 days. And all we would do is just crosswords from the different newspapers from the different parts of New Jersey we were from. Like I had the Asbury Park Press, somebody had the Bergen Record, somebody had the Newark Star Ledger. And then a manager comes in, he's like, what are you guys doing here? It's like, waiting for instruction.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had, so Kim Jones, who, runs the compliance side of the company.
Right.
She started at Merrill Lynch as well. I've never quite been able to understand because it's set up so different to how we do things. I've not quite been able to understand exactly how she did it, but she started with 401ks in Merrill Lynch. And I think like Laguna Beach or Long Beach or something beach.
She was like in an advisor's office. I was in like the home office.
No, she was but I always thought it was I always thought it was a corporate office. I mean, I don't think she was but it was something in California, and then she did it in Denver. But I always thought it was at the corporate level, not at financial advisor level. But yeah, so you were at the home office.
I guess, it's been a while since I left. I can send them a fax to see if it's still the same way.
I hope they have paper in their fax.
So you started at Merrill Lynch with a fantastic onboarding experience.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of love, lots of care, lots of hugs right off the bat, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's your entree into 401k land because you were unemployed. And I mean, this is how I got in the industry. I was flailing around for a place to work around Christmas time. Okay. So you landed in it accidentally, I think is fair to say, right?
Yep.
Because they were hiring. So why are you still here?
So my next job, I was working with a guy, and he's like, you know what? He's like, I don't really like it, but I've been doing it so long, I can't really start over. And I'm like, this is 24-year-old Kevin. He's like, I'm never going to be like that guy. And now I am. I've been doing this for 27 years. But at the end of the day, it's one of the guiding principles of my life is my time spent when I was in Boy Scouts and when I was my son's Cub Scout leader. And the Scout Oath says that we help other people at all times. And I like to think that in this industry, we're helping people, live comfortably in retirement. And that's kind of the American dream. I think we can all agree that being president is no longer the American dream. I think living a comfortable retirement is the American dream. And that's what I love doing.
Okay.
Helping people achieve that goal.
So it's not, all right, okay.
It's pretty fair to say.
That's a very that's a very good thing to say.
In that dream.
Everybody's giving us a very different reason as to why they're staying in Arisaland. Okay. So very interesting. Thank you, Kevin. All right. Now then, when we were chatting beforehand, you want to be a guest on the podcast, you offered up that you wanted to talk about auto portability. All right. You thought auto portability which might be a new concept for anybody watching or listening to this. You wanted to talk about it. So I was thinking, what is it and what do you think its competition is?
So auto portability is part of, I forget which one it was, Secure 2.0. And that's where you can automatically take balances and move them from your old 401k plan to your new 401k plan. And that's try to stop the leakage in the plans.
But that's an idea brought up by Secure. I believe it's Secure 1.0, but I don't think it's technically in effect yet.
So
it's like one of
right
those
now,
7 things.
Right now, there's a bunch of record keepers. I think it's 5 of them that have the portability service network in place, and it's my old employer, Empower, Principal, Alight, Fidelity, Vanguard, maybe, that all have that have, along with Retirement Clearinghouse, that have created the portability service network to try to move these balances between plans. And it's a good idea, but does it work? Well, I don't know about you, but let's take a look at me. I've been doing this for 27 years. You've read off my bio of where I've worked. So in the past, I've worked for a company that had their 401k plan with Merrill Lynch, BICIS / now Ascensus, American Funds, John Hancock, Empower, and now Alaris. So for me, over 3 decades, the portability service network would never have worked because I've only worked for one member of it. I've only worked for one company that uses a record keeper that's a member of the portability service network.
Okay.
So, it's like, oh, whoa, what do we do? How do we do this? It's like, well, there's companies out there like, I don't know, Penchex Trust that helps reunite people with their money. With AGTRA, they allowed you to force out terminated participants with a vested balance of under $5,000. With Secure 2.0, it moved it up to 7. And that's kind of one of the things that we do over here at Penchex Trust. And we don't view it as a one-step process. We view it as a 2-step process. We don't view it as like forcing people out and cleaning up the plans. So you increase your average account balance, you lower your mailing costs. Average account balance is the most likely thing that runs record keeper pricing, so you could get better pricing from your record keeper. It's actually a plan document issue. If you choose that you will do it in the adoption agreement, it says you will do it. It says not that you may do it. So it's actually,
people don't understand the meaning of the word force. Okay.
Yeah.
Force out does not equate to do it if you kind of think you might want to maybe do it.
Yeah, it's will. The adoption agreements say you will do it.
Yep.
And you have to. You give them 30 to 60 days to move their money, and if they don't, then you move the money to Penchex for an IRA, and that's step 1. The plan balances are out of your plan; they're no longer your fiduciary liability. Now, what Penchex does is we perform a participant search, send them out a welcome packet. Welcoming them to Penchex, who we are, why we have their money, and how to claim their money. And then we do we'll send them a 1099 at the end of the year. And every year we do participant searches and mailings participant outreach. We also stood up the National Registry of Unclaimed Retirement Benefits, the NRURB. When we register every account with that, it's an online searchable database that you can go on and search for your missing retirement money. So that's why within the first year, we reunite 50% of the accounts that we open. In the first year, it's about 68% of the accounts that we open. We reunite them with the Americans whose money it actually is. And if you think about it,
Holy moly.
these aren't your C-suite level people. These are like your rank and file people, where this money could mean a lot to them.
Absolutely.
It could mean the difference between a great Christmas next week and sorry we couldn't get you more kind of Christmas.
Right. So it's a good thing we do these podcasts. We find out so much about the people we do business with. I mean, I thought I knew what was going on with you guys, and I've talked to a bunch of your fellow employees over there at PenCheck, and this is all wonderfully new. So now then, so let's say you have somebody, they work for a company, and they rolled over $4,000 3 years ago, okay? And now it's 2 employers later, and they're somewhere else, and $6,000 leaves them, and it just happens to go to PenChecks as well, but the employers are completely unrelated, and they were working for companies that aren't part of the auto portability network. Since it's the same social security address, the same social security number, maybe a different street address, are you going to merge those accounts?
We aren't going to merge the accounts. We're going to keep them separate, but when the person calls in to claim their account, we'll let them know that they have 2 accounts.
They have 2 accounts. Okay. And I did not, you were reaching out to these people at the last known address, and you keep looking for a new address for these people every year?
Yep. We've, as part of our mission to help reunite Americans with their retirement savings, we've developed a really robust participant search service. And we offer that as one of the services that you can use on our website. You can say, hey, I want to do participant searches. You can either do it on a one-off or upload us a spreadsheet. And we're over 95% accurate in finding their most recent address.
That's okay. This is very good stuff to know, because this is a big problem, the missing people, from a compliance geek point of view, because it's the plan sponsors who are our clients. Mm-hmm. We need to keep them out of trouble with the powers that be, and we want them to not have lost employees. So we like the $7,000. From our point of view, we like the $7,000 force out. Okay. We understand, because having lots of small account balances, like you say, I'm glad you started with lots of very small account balances really has a negative impact on the record keeping pricing, which affects everybody in the plan for an ongoing basis. All right.
Yep.
And then employers really don't want to have to deal with lots of small amounts for lost participants.
Yeah. So, and it never goes away.
No.
So for instance, I'm divorced. My first wife, in 2018, we got a letter from the Teamsters pension plan saying that her grandmother had a vested account balance less than $1,000, and if we didn't take action, they were going to force it out.
That is crazy.
Wait, this is crazy. So her grandmother moved to L.A. during World War II to work as a Rosie the Riveter building aircraft in Glendale.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And they forced her out of her wartime job. This was before my dad was born in 2018.
And it had only grown to $1,000?
It's a defined benefit plan.
Okay.
That was, and she stopped accruing a benefit, when she, went on to work at the
1945. Yes. Yes. Okay. So how does, with what you're talking about, so I understand why you're saying that this is a reasonable competition to the auto porter, not to the auto porter. Wow. Did not know this was going to be.
How many pilsners has he had?
No, this is a start. Okay. Auto portability. All right. So you're not competing with the act. You're thinking you have a reasonable mousetrap in comparison to what those 5 record keepers are doing.
Yep.
However, how does what you're doing tie up, line up, compare to, compete with, whatever you want to call it, the lost database that Congress has told, I believe, the DOL to try to put together, which is its own special kind of nightmare?
Yeah. So I actually just saw something in the news about that this week, and I'm just going to try to pull it up here.
Industry news or the general news?
It was in, the interesting to geeks like us.
Okay.
So the deadline set by Secure 2.0 Act to create the Lost and Found database is December 29th, 2024. Gomez said at the EAC hearing that she expects that deadline to be met and the DOL has already begun receiving voluntary data. The Lost and Found will not be a full database when launched and will be filled out more over time. The DOL is only requesting the name and social security number of any separated participants who is owed a benefit and is age 65 or older.
Uh-huh.
And that was per NapaNet earlier this week.
Right.
Hopefully it will be the start of a tool that will become more robust and more helpful over time.
Okay. So I'm on the ASPA Government Affairs Committee for the Form 5500.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow I blinked one day and I was on that panel like 15 years ago. Okay. And so one of the things we're talking about, because this does have a tangential effect or connection with the 5500, all right, is apparently when you go and look at how the statute's actually written, the only way the DOL can comply with that is to pass sensitive data back and forth in an insecure manner. It's a very cumbersome, insecure way to take care of it right now. So the way the law is written. So I'm hoping, so it's only going to be voluntary compliance. It's going to be a long time before they have a fully functional database.
Right.
Which is
right now, and for the last 26 years, we actually did our first auto rollover IRA in 1998. So it was 3 years before AGTRA codified it. We've been helping reunite Americans with their hard-earned retirement savings. This is our mission.
Have you looked at my notes? Do you know what the next question is?
Jeez.
No.
You don't really, did you not?
Like Karnak. He's like,
Karnak. Okay. Because the next question is, why does Penchex exist and what is its origin story?
That's not our origin story. That's the sequel. Our origin story was we were founded, it was 30 years ago. We were founded in 1994 by a group of third-party administrators that were part of a study group most of them were based out of Southern California, that said, hey, we're not in the money in game and we're not in the money out game. We're in the plan design, compliance, testing, reporting game. We don't like doing we don't want to do payroll and we don't like doing distributions. So let's set up a company that will do the distributions. It was sort of a co-op. And then over time, Peter Priovalos bought out all the partners and now we're owned by the Priovalos Family Trust. I believe we're owned by the Priovalos Family Trust. I think something like that. It's basically the Priovalos family. Spiro Priovalos is our CEO.
Okay. The son of the founder?
Yes. Yep. His son. Great CEO, great guy.
Good.
Yeah, we just had our employee appreciation event over the weekend. It was fantastic. I've never been part of a company that takes better care of their employees.
Work on a weekend to appreciate you?
They took us to Snapdragon Stadium and had a huge event. That's the soccer stadium in San Diego. And we had a huge event, food, beverages, gifts and it was all employees and every member of their family. It was kids, it was spouses, it was fantastic.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So so their origin story is what, 5 TPAs banding together trying to come up with some way to
I don't know the total number of TPAs.
Okay.
As a former TPA myself, I like to get numbers right. But it was a group of TPAs.
Fine. If I'd said 5, I'm waiting for somebody to fact check us, okay? But we did talk about this a little bit in our prep call. So why does Penchex exist?
So we help the distribution process. So we were started to help distribution process from back then 30 years ago. It was mostly pooled plans, balance forward. We still do a lot of that with DB plans. Now we also, and plans that have brokerage accounts. We'll do the check cutting processes. We'll do the tax withholding and payment to the state if you're in a high tax state or a no tax state. like Washington, and to the federal government. We'll do the tax reporting on that. Since then, we've expanded our business. We've got our participant searches. About 20% of our businesses with ESOPs. We also do, the auto IRAs are a big part of it too.
Right.
So ESOPs, is that like a higher volume, or is that just a niche? How do you end up being such a big?
It's a niche, but ESOPs aren't record kept.
Right.
Right.
So all the distributions have to run through a company like ours.
Yeah.
And depending on the number that you hear, there's between 8,000 and 14,000 ESOPs in the country, and we work with about 2,000 of them.
Okay.
To help process their distributions.
Because ESOPs, like at Principal or somewhere that's taking care of that themselves.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you started off with the distributions in 1099-R. God bless you. Thank you very much. Okay. Because I do remember the days when we used to process, we tried to help people with withholding, and we did various different softwares, 1099-Rs, and just having to do that process in January. That's what you started at the company with, isn't it? 20 years ago.
That was quite a pain point. And the pain point was that you're asking people at the end of the year, the beginning of the year, to get back to on a distribution because
that they did 8 months ago.
You didn't know the exact money. And it's actually such an elegant solution to say, send the money, have it done. Pen checks will do the 1099.
Yep.
I mean, we used to lose, it was who was the new hire that got the crap job, basically. And that's what 1099s were.
We'll be your new hire that does your crap job. That's Pen Check's newest slogan.
It wasn't necessarily punishment, but it sure was a good...
It really felt like
it. The person's like, oh, really? I got to do this crap job? Yes.
Yep.
It's gainful employment, and you're inside, and it's reasonably warm, but they didn't look at it that way.
We're not going to put you in a supply closet and forget about you.
Well, in that situation, there's no demands on you. So
some people might like that. It's a little bit easier. Okay. So when did you do the first auto rollover? What year was that?
In 1998.
They've been around that long?
We've been around that long?
No, not you. No, when was the first time you could force somebody out of... Because you couldn't do...
So it was codified as part of EGTRA, but you were allowed to do it, but it wasn't, there weren't... It was more like, hey, you got to do this, you could do, or you can... There wasn't this strict rules around it that there was in EGTRA.
It wasn't little s, little h safe harbor rules. It was like a facts and
right, and it wasn't like EGTRA said like, hey, you've got like anybody between 1,000 and 5,000, you've got to put in an IRA.
Right.
Any between under 1,000, you can send them a check. At Pen Checks, we'll take IRAs of any size, that's what reflected in our pricing. Because when our account balances get small enough, we'll only charge a percentage rather than fee them all out.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, so we'll be like, hey, small balances, we're just gonna like under 1,000, under $100, we're just gonna charge you 20%, so we don't fee everybody out.
Okay, Catherine, next question is yours.
Well, I was, my thought is that you have actually a unique position in the industry to see kind of broadly what happens. And so what kind of insights do you have on this industry? How much has changed from your viewpoint?
I like to say, like, how old I am? I'm so old that record keeping used to be about keeping records. It used to be about like, hey, this is the loan, this is the loan, this is the deferral, this is the match, this part of the loan is interest, this part is that. I remember having a conversation to show you how smart I am. Somebody was like, hey, we're going to develop this system where you can, instead of having them like overnight checks, they're going to be able to upload the contributions and ACH us the money via the website. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
On the internet?
That's magic.
Nobody's going to do that. The internet's for looking at dirty pictures, stealing songs, or ordering books off that company called Rainforest or whatever, or Brazil or whatever it is. Something like that.
In Brazil, yes.
Yeah. I'm like, nobody's going to trust contributions on the internet.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I've seen it, to that where now like record keeping is just all completely automated, and it's all now about financial wellness and the different bells and, getting participants to, getting up participation, getting retirement, looking at retirement readiness. Now you've got the outside savings accounts and all these different things. I've seen you kind of come a long way, baby, to, quote a cigarette ad.
Yeah.
So, and I'm super excited for, auto enrollment and auto escalation to be kind of in law for startup plans. As long as there's integration with payroll and you got these great companies that like the Paylocities, the Paycors, or the payroll integrations that can do it for you. As long as you have that, that's the best way to get people to, prepared for retirement. So Bob Reynolds was became the president of Empower. He was the president of Putnam. He wrote a great book about savings for retirement, and part of it was about how the only way forward was auto escalation, auto enrollment. And when I left American Funds to go to the TPA, that was like literally PPA was passed like that week. The guy that replaced me at at American Funds was like, "Hey, the enrollment meeting's dead. It doesn't work. Auto enrollment's going to be the thing that moves the needle." And I've always thought that. And if you look at it, what is it, 95% participation versus 60? Average deferral rate starts at 6, goes up to 10 rather than 3. I think that's going to be that's going to change the industry in a way that nobody's really expecting, because anybody that makes asset-based compensation, whether it be DCIO, whether it be record keepers, whether it be advisors, whether it be TPAs that keep the revenue sharing, is going to see a huge inflow in these plans. And when I left Empower, one of the emails I sent to Ken Monroe, national sales manager, was like, "Hey, look at this. What would a startup plan be? What is a balance of a 10-person startup plan in 2013 versus what it would be if hypothetically you had 95% participation starting at 6 going to 10, and like it's the difference between like a $300,000 plan and a $3 million plan."
Okay.
I'm making those numbers up. I sent that email about a year and a half ago.
So you just see more people, more foot on the accelerator. It's getting bigger. But my question also is just kind of a little bit about the players in the field. It's when you talk about, we're from the crunchy TPAs, right? Old school way of doing things. And I feel like there's now like, I don't know, like 100 different vendors with like names that were made. Like if you do a rock band, you put in the information and the rock band name comes out. But instead of a rock band, it comes out, like a financial term that
online only 401k plan provider, what you're alluding to. Yes.
Yeah.
So I feel like the vendors are changing too. And does that give you more opportunity, less opportunity? Are you going to just all be dealing with big roll-ups and there's just a few of us crusty TPAs left? Or, what do you see?
Well, I see continued roll-up in the record-keeping space as margins go down through fee compression and as expenses go up, especially with the unwinnable war of cybersecurity and the need to constantly pump money. Cybersecurity, Secure 2.0 is a one-time spend to add these amendments in to get your record-keeping system compliant with it. Cybersecurity is an annual spend.
Yeah.
And if you don't have scale, how can you do it on a record-keeping side?
Yeah.
And then I'm also fascinated about what FIS is going to do with now that they're going to sunset the Relias record-keeping system and come out with a revamped Omni.
Oh, what? Oh, missed that memo.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I haven't seen much about it since there was an article in the 401k Wire about 15 months ago, but they're still scheduled to start releasing it and start moving their users over. I'm not sure when, though.
But those are for the big boys. This isn't for your little TPA trying to have his own record daily valuation.
No, a lot of the little TPA record keeping systems are on. It's either Relias or Schwab.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And Relias is going to go away, and it's going to be moved over to Omni.
Okay. Interesting.
Because FIS owns both Relias and Omni.
Because there's been, Okay, there's been so much change necessary in the record keeping space with additional sources, with the possibility of the sidecars, the Roth match, all these other things, the different catch-ups, the Roths, all this stuff. They've all seemed to have been written, these programs, back in the 50s or something, like they were doing it on punch cards, because they all seem to have exceedingly inflexible database designs, because the record keeping system is a database, right, with a large amount of automation and stuff like that. All right. But so what you're saying is, with the FIS, somebody's going to start off with a clean sheet of paper and write something new from scratch that's hopefully going to be more flexible and more scalable.
I think so, but I also think they're going to base it on Omni,
which is an old legacy system.
Yeah, so I don't know what they're going to do with that. If they're just going to take the, infrastructure of that, it's like, and drop in a new engine or whatnot, and just keep some parts to it, but change some. I'm not sure. I literally don't know what they're going to do with how that's going to happen. I want to know more about that, because the record keeping consolidation fascinates me, having been through going from Great West to absorbing Putnam and JP Morgan to become Empower Retirement, and then Mass Mutual. And now you see, Voya just bought One America, and you see, if you pay attention to the 401k wire, you see a lot of these smaller players being bought up too.
Yep. So, all right. Are you seeing, what about in your space? I haven't heard about any roll-ups in your specific space. Has there been any?
We're kind of unique in our distribution processing capabilities, but in the 401, in the auto rollover space, there's actually been more players entering it. Right. You traditionally, it was kind of Millennium Trust / Inspira. They rebranded and us, and now you see other players getting involved too.
Okay, so that's the growth part of the industry. All right, fine.
Or record keepers taking it in-house, like the portability service now.
Right. But I think as long as, brokerage accounts are not going to go away.
Nope.
DB plans are not going to go away. Okay. ESOPs are not going to go away.
And nobody's going to upload contributions through the website.
No, not at all. Not at all.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought 20 years ago.
Or your phone that you call your mom with. Yeah. That's not going to happen. All right. Now then, so last question. What surprises you the most about the ERISA industry?
What surprises me the most about the ERISA industry? That's a really good question. I'd like to say how varied it is. You get pigeonholed into one thing, and you kind of you view it this way. Yeah. And when I was at American Funds, I had no idea what a TPA was until we came out with Record Keeper Direct. And I ran the TPA database. And then I went to the TPA, I saw all these different things. And when I went to Great West, I saw it from a different standpoint. By the way, when I was at American Funds, one of the things they did was create Plan Premier, which was Great West Fast Core / Power Institutional is the back office record keeper. But and then I saw hey, this is the business. And then when we became bigger, I'm like, well, the definition of what a large plan is has always changed. A large plan for a TPA is $10 million. A large plan for Great West was $500 million. A large plan for Empower was $1 billion.
Right. Our last guest was Ralph DeSestro from Voya, and he talks the way they do their segmentation. It's $0 to $40 million. Okay. Yeah. And for us, the difference between a $50,000 plan and a $4 million plan is insane, okay? But then to include, for having to go all the way up to $40 million, and once the first place I worked at in Chicago, we had a relationship somehow with some trust company or whatever, that their idea of a small plan was less than 5,000 employees.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's just, so it's all relative. It's your comment about the perspective is very interesting. Yeah. Because
and then, now over here seeing ESOPs and having never paid attention to them at all. And also more recently, Taft-Hartley and union plans.
Yes.
and how it's an entirely. I went to my first Taft Hartley conference last month, and it was just it had a lot of the same players, but with a lot of the same bands with different musicians.
Okay.
So the Empower people were different, the T-Row people were different, and then a bunch of different players that specialize, like record keepers that specialize in that business, or TPAs. And I thought I knew every TPA on the West Coast that only specialize in Taft Hartley plants, and what a big thing that is. And when I was at the track back in the '90s, I was a Teamster myself.
Interesting segue.
I was local 97, so I can talk union. My mom was teachers union. I've walked the picket line with my kids for the 2 teacher strikes we've had here in Vancouver.
Okay.
So I could talk the union talk.
Okay. Very interesting. All right, Kevin, it's been very interesting. The time's flown by for me. I've learned a lot, as we usually do. It's fantastic having guests on, because I'm hoping somebody else learns some stuff, because I think Catherine and I do a tremendous amount. Is there a thought you wanted to share with us that we have not yet given you the opportunity before we bid farewell?
No, thank you so much for having me on. I can't think of anything else, and I'm allowed to sit here in the middle of the afternoon rather than packing to go to visit my in-laws tomorrow in Shreveport. I'm sitting here having a delicious Wildness beer by Alaskan Brewing.
Okay. All right. Kevin, thank you very much. If something big happens in your industry, your company, make sure you let us know, and we'll have you back on the pod. All right?
Awesome. Great. And if I don't see you before then, I'll see you in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Keep on swinging.
You're not going to BMC?
I'll be at BMC.
Okay, we'll see you.
All right.
We're going to see you in January, buddy.
All right, I'll see you in Scottsdale then.
All right. Take care.
All right, bye.
So, did you enjoy that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I always like, there's the technical side, but I really just love always hearing like how different the different conferences are. That he has an overview that the rest of us don't. Like, I didn't know there was, a Taft Hartley, conference.
Yes, Hartley conference and ESOP.
Well, I knew the ESOP, but it was very interesting to hear how culturally that's different than
what we normally do.
What we normally do.
Yeah, you don't have half the attendees at ASPA Annual be participants in a plan, do you?
No, and the funny thing is, we tend to look at thinking that the TPA world has been really consistent, and we're just in a slice of it, and it's all changing. Do you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It was very interesting. So I think we're going to have a wrap on this. Thank you very much, Kevin. He was a fantastic guest. And for our faithful listeners and watchers, you know what to do. You know the call to action. Let everybody know what's going on. Share it. Let us know what your thoughts are. Let us know who you would like to see as a guest, okay? Or who you don't know. Yeah.
Let us just who you want to.
You like only the positive stuff. I like to, rough things up a little bit.
No, I like deep thoughts on for.
All right.
Say rough up.
We'd like your deep thoughts on the ERISA. We don't have to just say 401k. I know we're the 401 couple, but we can make stuff up about ESOPs and cash balance and other things as well. So let us know what you'd like to hear and see and or hear and watch. All right. Thank you very much. Take care. Because this is December. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and all that other good stuff. Take care.
Take care.